Hey guys, welcome to the Keep It Spiritual show and podcast with myself, Chris Meredith. Now, this morning I'm so excited that I got the chance to sit down and speak to the beautiful medium, which is Claire Broad. Now, Claire has brought out a fascinating book called What the Dead Are Dying to Teach Us. Now, that book, first of all, spoke to my soul. Yes, it did. I love the way that Claire's brought the book out in simplistic text. Spoke to me. It isn't heavy. It's a light read as well, but get straight to the point. So if you're waking up right now or you want to delve into more spiritualism and develop more as a medium, you want to know what's happening with spirits, you want to connect psychically, this is the book for you. But the way that Claire delivers it is just pure perfection. So if you want it, the link for Claire's book is down below as well. But I really hope you enjoyed this chat. I've absolutely loved getting the chance to sit down with Claire and really find out about her journey as a medium, as a channeler as well. And remember, she's got over a 2-year waiting list as well. So if you're waiting for her, check out this chat, see what she's all about. I really hope you enjoyed the lovely Claire Broad on the Keep It Spiritual podcast and show. Claire Broad, welcome to the Keep It Spiritual show and podcast. First of all, Claire, how are you doing?
I'm really good, actually. I've got to say, it's coronavirus time, I know, but isolation is doing me quite a good turn in some ways, because it makes you go in and think about all the things that are important, who's important, where you're going, what you're doing, reevaluating everything. That's quite a healthy process, I think, sometimes. So yeah, I'm good. Are you?
I'm really good. I'm even better speaking to you, Claire. This is how everyone should start their day, is speaking to Claire Broad. What it's all about. I love your energy as well, Claire. So, of course, you are a medium, Claire. I want
Yes.
to go right to the beginning. When did you first know when you was a medium?
Okay. I don't know if I ever really knew. Um, I think it was a process that unfolded, if that makes sense. So when I look back now, I can see that the spirit dimension of life was around me the whole time. So I gave my first message when I was 4 to my nan. We were standing in a cemetery in Richmond, in Surrey, and I felt my grandfather come close to me. And as a 4-year-old, obviously, I had no concept of death and dying. But the occurrence was so unusual, it has stayed in my memory, and it stayed. My mum and my nan were there together. They were at my grandfather's plot, cleaning it up, putting flowers down. And so I felt him so strongly with me, communicating to my mind and telling me to tell my nan how much he loved her. And as a 4-year-old, I didn't even question it. I was a little bit irritated because I was busy playing and I was quite happy. Uh, so, but eventually the urge and the sort of the communication was so strong that I just stood up and delivered this message to my nanny. Granddad says, "I love you, Ive."
Well
And
done with that. I love that. That's like confidence
yeah.
right there. I mean, that link to be that young as well, and the confidence to deliver that message. That's fabulous, Claire.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like I said, there was no rational process at that age. There's no awareness of death, dying. No, it was just like, oh, that's Granddad. I can feel him. Don't really want to pass this on. I'm busy. And just the pleading from him. So, as a child, you don't question, do you just stand up? I just thought, oh, I'm just got to say this. My nan and my mum have never forgotten it. I mean, my nan only died a few years ago at the age of 92. She's never forgotten it.
Oh.
So, and it gave her great comfort all through her life. And the reason that she knew and she listened was because her name was Ivy Constance, but everybody called her Connie. My mum called her Mum. I called her Nanny. So the fact I'd said Ive, which was only what my granddad called her, really made her stop in her tracks, I think. Um, but that was the start of it, I suppose, as I look back. But there was a whole process of unfoldment very gradually. Grew up in a very normal environment, everyday life. Teenage years, everything started to unfold to the point where I was seeing, I now know to be my spirit guide in my bedroom at night. And it was all these little carrots being dangled, really, and encouraging me to try and put the puzzle pieces together. And you know what, Chris, there's no such thing as coincidences there, because then by the time I'm an actual sort of adult, 19 and old enough to kind of do something with this, then I have a friend of mine says she wants to go and see a medium, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, that will be a good thing to do. I've had some experiences, I can't understand them, wonder if she'll pick up on it. And of course she did. And
Mm.
she told me who the people were I'd been seeing. She described my granddad, she named him, she described the spirit guide I'd been seeing. And of course I knew what she was saying was the truth, because I had had these experiences. And it was just this whole, almost like a pack of cards almost coming down around me, like my idea of what reality was, and my then understanding that, wow, this is real. Just there's this huge shift happened in me. So then from about the age of 21, 20, with some maturity, I then, because this lady had said to me at the time when I was 19, she would take me on as a student, because
Mm.
she could tell obviously I had an ability, but I wasn't ready until I was about 21. And then I sat with her and committed every single week to my development. And that took about 10 years for me even to then say, you know what, I think I can do this. So that's why I'm saying I didn't know.
Yep.
And and I didn't think that I had this ability, and I think everybody's got it to a certain degree. I now know, as I look back, this was my life purpose, it's my passion, it's why I'm here on this planet, is to help people wake up to who they really are. So that's why I had such, if you like, in your face experiences. But I'm not special, as you know, we're all spirit, we're all consciousness, we're all in, there's an eternal spark in all of us. And I think my job is just to understand that and help people understand that's within them too. you
Yes,
know
love that, Claire. That's good. But your energy, I love your energy. You make me excited. I like
yeah.
the yay. I love it. But it's great
Well,
to hear your story as well and your journey, because people will be listening to this, watching this, and they could be at the beginning of their journey, and then
exactly.
listening to you, like you said, it could light that spark, and they could think, well, Claire's done it. I could do it.
Anyone can do it. The whole reason we're here is that we are trying to reach ever higher states of awareness. And some of us, we're only going to go so far with it.
Mhm.
Others are going to go right off the scale. Sometimes I think, oh my God, where's it going to end? It starts to get uncomfortable with owning your truth, doesn't it? Because you suddenly no longer feel like you're fitting in with the
Mm.
mainstream way of thinking. But if you're true to yourself, the enrichment that it can give you is well worth the pain.
Definitely is. And there'll be a lot of people going through that right now. I mean, myself, Claire, as well. That's kind of how I'm feeling. Books, I'm really, really connected to reading books at the moment, and just kind of developing myself as well. So a lot of people are kind of raising their kind of awareness at the moment, I think, aren't they?
There's a shift. There's a shift. I mean, for the last, I would say, 6 years, my spirit teachers have been telling me that I need to prepare, because, it's almost as if some of us were just that little bit further down the line. And they were saying to me that there's going to be an influx, a huge wave of people, not just looking for just the traditional mediumship that you've seen in the past on the TV. That had its place. That was absolutely necessary. It was helping people feel comfortable with all of this and waking people up to something more. Because prior to that, there's just so much fear and that attached to spirit communication.
Mm.
But I think now people, possibly like yourself, Chris, realizing that there is more to reality, wanting to seek, knowing there's something within their soul that's bringing them towards greater truth. And there is a whole wave, it's wonderful, there's a whole wave of younger people. That's why I wanted to get on this show. It's like, yes, there's younger people coming up, and I don't mean to be like, detrimental, but when I first started developing, really there was just like, I was 20 and there was like me and maybe one other, and everybody was much further down the line in their lives, because they didn't think about dying until they got older. It's changing. We're realizing who we are. So
It is, and it is
thank you.
exciting. No, you're very welcome, and thank you for being on the show as well. I mean, I'm so excited to obviously talk to you even more. But Claire, I want to know, what's it like every single day of your life working with spirit?
It's weird. It's a paradox is the word I want to use. So, So most of my life, I'd say, is completely normal, whatever you want to call normal, every day. So I'm a mum. I had a very, before I was doing mediumship, as if you, it's not, I don't, it's my calling, it's not a career, but I've walked the very traditional mainstream path. I've had very good jobs. Then I became a mum. I've been at home for the last 13 years, bringing up my children. So in that respect, it's every day. But what has happened as my life has unfolded is there is this added dimension of reality that is there all the time supporting me. So at the times when I sit with a client, so I'm working in the daytimes with clients on one-to-one basis, then I might be teaching in the evenings and at the weekends, or doing public demonstrations, and I'm obviously a writer, so I'm a channel. I'm often sitting many hours channeling the insight of spirit into my books. In those times when I sit, I then am aware of this other level of reality where infinite possibility exists, and where I know that you can't die, and that your loved ones live on, and that they're with us, and so are spirit helpers and teachers beyond our comprehension. So on one side I'm like way out there, on the other side I'm like very grounded. And that's my life.
That's great, Claire, but that's the best of both worlds, though, isn't it? That's the way that it is. You've got your feet in the ground, but you're kind of up there as well, which we
Yeah.
want. And you mentioned there, Claire, as well, you are a writer, and your brand new book, which is called What the Dead Are Dying to Teach Us. I mean, myself, I connected with the book instantly. I mean, the book is just fabulous.
And what do you think it is that helped you connect? Because that's what I find interesting.
It's the way you wrote the book. For me, it's the way you wrote it. It's the way that you put a little bit of yourself in that book as well, which I absolutely love. But it's just a very connectable, you wrote it how I would think I would write a book. That's why I connected with it. If you know what I mean.
So yeah, I do. Lots of people say to me that when they're reading it, they can almost just hear me talking to them at their level, if that makes sense. That the way, but I think because I wrote it in bite-sized chunks, so people can take a bit away, go away, process it. There's lots of science in there. So for the doubting mind, I think that because we all doubt, I think many mediums come across with this utter confidence. The spirit world is real, and I have this absolute connection with them. But the truth of the matter is, all of us doubt. If we don't doubt, we don't question. So I tried to write as my journey was, which is, here's some of the things that happened to me. This is what made me want to search. This is what I found out. And here are tips that you can do to bring this dimension of reality into your life. Because when you do, I think you start to live your best life. So
and that's it, isn't it? Is living your best life. And I suppose, there's so many people waking up, like we were speaking a little bit before, the book is perfect for them, isn't it?
It is. I believe, obviously I'm biased, but I believe that it's the kind of book that you can pick up if you're a beginner. But I also know that there's a lot of information in there for those of us who've been around the block for a while, because you don't always get this information. I've been privileged to be put in touch with the scientists, the researchers, that you might not have access to sitting in your local circle group, or, so I think it kind of reaches across the whole gamut, really, of spiritual understanding with regards to spirit communication, and that's why I'm hoping it's resonating with people.
I think
it's great.
It is. And I totally resonated with myself as well. I mean, you were told by many spiritual teachers that you was going to write as well for spirit. I mean, how did that make you feel, Claire?
Frightened. Yeah, no, I laughed it off. But yeah, 20 years. So the first time I walked into a spiritualist church, I went into Hampton Hill Spiritualist Church, my local spiritualist church at the time. The first message I ever received was a lady telling me about my granddad, who obviously I knew was okay because I'd heard from him. And she told me that there was a spirit guide with her who was giving her a white feather quill, and that I would write for the spirit world. Now, I later found out that my spirit guide would label himself White Feather. But, you know, this was the first message that came to me. That was the first time I walked into a church. And I thought at the time, oh, maybe, you know, as my own development unfolded, maybe I'm supposed to be doing automatic writing. Or so I used to just sit and see if spirit would come through, but nothing happened. And then for 20 years, this message repeated: you're going to write books, there's going to be books. People were telling me the color of the first book that I wrote, Answers from Heaven. They were telling me the detail on the cover, and years before it unfolded. And then I think in 2016, I think I started writing my first book, Answers from Heaven, with Teresa Chung. She's a Sunday Times best-selling Afterlife author. And a week before I met her, I actually came into contact with a brilliant medium who told me, the time's now. You're going to be writing now. You've got to stick your head above the parapet. You've hidden in the shadows too long. And I'm like, no, you know. I failed GCSE English. I'm not a writer. I don't know if I'm up to this. And then a week later, Teresa Chung contacts me from out the blue. You know, I didn't even go anywhere. I'm in my home. And she rings me and just says, you know, you've been recommended to me as a medium. I'm really drawn to you. Heaven's calling me to you. I've been researching you incognito. That's the really funny thing. Because like, yeah, the way spirit intelligence is unbelievable, because it turns out she's only half an hour down the road to me. This lady has written 100 books. Her books are out across the whole world. There she is, a half an hour down the road to me. Never heard of her. She'd never heard of me. And then this beautiful collaboration started, and that was sort of she just said to me, I'm going to ask my publisher if you can write with me, because you're honest and you're real and I trust you. And she said, my publisher's never agreed to it. And I said to her, they will. Because I knew. And that's how it started. So the Answers from Heaven is a real sort of introduction. It's a real sort of, for anyone who's not experienced spirit communication or just wants to feel like a hug in a book, really. They've lost a loved one and they need some comfort. That really is the elementary beginner level. But my book, What the Dead Are Dying to Teach Us, I think is the next stage along. It just helps the whole, you know, there's a bit more meat on the bone, I suppose, rather than just true stories, which is what Answers from Heaven is. You know, What the Dead Are Dying to Teach Us has got, like I said, the research and the stuff that you can satisfy a critical mind with, hopefully, fingers crossed, as much as you can. I mean, obviously, you know, we can't prove an afterlife scientifically, can we?
No, we can't. But, you know, we've got people like you there, Claire. So, you know, What the Dead Are Dying to Teach Us, that title, where did it come from?
They came from spirit. So, yeah, it did. I basically, again, this is where the intelligence of spirit comes out, because I thought I was done. I never wanted to be in the public eye. It wasn't something I sought. I just wanted to serve the spirit world. I wanted to give the message to whoever was ready to hear it, to learn maybe from me. And I wasn't seeking recognition, if that makes sense. So I was really shocked when Answers went to a #1 bestseller, was all over the press and everything. and then a publisher contacted me from Watkins Publishing, and she said to me, we'd love you to write a book for us, please. So, but the funny thing was, I had been getting messages for 6 months prior from Spirit saying there's another book. And you start in February 2018. They even gave me the month I started, signed the contract and started writing. It was that specific. Yeah, it was that specific. It wasn't wishy-washy messages, this. It was, you have come to do this and you're going to do it. Obviously, I chose it at some level. So anyway, I then think, well, I don't know what I'm going to write, because I hadn't set out to be a writer. You know, I wasn't seeking public attention. So I sat down and asked, and I just said to White Feather, okay, if I'm supposed to be writing this book, what do you want me to write? And what's it need to be called? And I just got this instant reply, download. It's like a download. It's just there, what the dead are dying to teach us. And that's such his sense of humor, because, you know, people in the spirit world, they don't take life as seriously as we do. They, you know, they've got a sense of humor. My spirit guides are quite intimidating at times and powerful and protective, but fun and loving and so full of unconditional love. You know, the whole point of the title is that they're not dead, and that they're dying to teach us what it is that they want us to know about life, you know. Of course, you know, it's just funny because then my publisher was like, that's the title. That is, you know.
That's it. It's
It's a
great
lot.
though. It's to the
It's
point. I love it. It tells you everything about it. And it's a bit of tongue in cheek as well, which I think, you know, why I've connected, you know, with the book so much. And one thing about the book that has resonated, you know, I've not read it all, I'm going through it, but it for me, it is that pure connection with your words. Because some books, you know, older fashioned books can be quite complicated, long words, I get bored and that kind of stuff. But your book, you know, What the Dead Are Dying to Teach Us, it's just resonates with me on kind of a not comic level, but you just kind of get my personality in the book,
I
which gets
love
me.
that. But don't you think there's a bit of a soul recognition between you and me? Because the minute
Yeah.
we connected, we were like, bang, like this person, same frequency, same energy.
Yeah.
In
Boom,
fact,
boom, boom,
people,
boom.
yeah, people watching this are going to be going, oh my God, what have those two been on?
I don't know. I don't know. It's a Monday morning. Nothing. I've had a cup of tea. No, I've not. I've had an orange juice. That's it.
It's
That's all I've had.
I know, it's isolation. We're all going a little bit, you know. But
Oh,
I
yeah,
think
but
that's the I
I'll
think
do
that's
that
the
question
thing.
again. Tell you what,
Look, this is the whole point of spirit, isn't it? If you can't have a laugh and if you can't feel joyful, what is the point?
no, true, true, and that's what it's about. Absolutely about, Claire. I love it. But was it important for you? You know, when you was writing the book, was it important for you to relay your message out in a simplistic way?
Yes. Well, actually, and I'm going to laugh again. I don't know whether this was meant as a insult or a compliment to me, but basically the messages that had been coming through for 20 years
Yeah.
was that I have an ability to write in a simplistic manner. And that's why they're choosing to work with me. Now I laugh because I think, is that just because I need it?
No, but I need it, Claire. I need it, so don't worry about that. You wrote in that way. I've connected with it like that, so it's fabulous. I needed
But
it.
you know what though, Chris? I have heard some of the, I don't know if you go to spiritualist churches or
I
just
used
hearing
to.
some of
Yeah,
the,
used to.
okay. And also sometimes when you hear channelers on the internet and YouTube, I have heard some of the most eloquent um, philosophy and addresses that are so deep. They sound like poetry, but you come away and you're like, "Ugh, I can't quite grasp the teaching there. How do I apply that to everyday life? You know,
Mm.
how does that become real for me now? This very highfalutin address from the spirit world, you know? There's something about it that just seemed a little detached from everyday life. I'm trying to write in a way that makes people realize, yeah, I'm talking to you, you know, you who don't think you can do this, not you, Chris, but you're, you know, everyone out there, you know, you can, you are it. It's simple.
Mhm.
It's not difficult. It's about stilling the mind, going within, connecting within your soul. You know, it's mindfulness, but it's more than mindfulness in as much as mindfulness gets you to get out of your mind. It shouldn't be called mindfulness, really. It should be called non-mindfulness.
Yes, you out.
um, yeah, you don't want to be in the mind. We're moving. I'm going to sound a bit deep now, but this is what the spirit world tell me, that we're moving out. We're moving into a new paradigm. We're moving into a new way of being. And that means we're moving out of mind construct, the old way of thinking, the old thing, the way that was, you know, for instance, just if you look at the whole gender equality, if you look at, you know, the transgender movement and all of this that's going on, and how divine feminine is sort of becoming more masculine. They're fighting for their place in the world, and actually men are having to become more sensitive. You
Mm.
know, they're realizing that if they don't communicate their emotions, if they don't share, they suffer. So there is this whole shift going on from the way that we used to view society, and what worked for us back then was fine for then, but we're moving on. We're raising our awareness. We're moving into a new state of being, and we're moving from mind to heart intelligence. So now it's about understanding that your soul communicates to you through your heart, and that we all have access to that. And when we get into the stillness, when we learn to create a gap within our thoughts, then the spirit dimension, they can come close. It's simple. It's not rocket science. It's not easy.
I'm with you there, Claire. I'm with you. I was with you 110% now. I was like, I ain't speaking. I'm not interrupting. This is the key moment of the interview. This is it. That's the highlight. I love that. But it is. And you're really, really right there, Claire, as well. But one thing as well, going back to the book, what the dead are dying to teach us, you've got your call to actions in there as well. And one thing I love about that, I've read the chapter, and sometimes I forget what you've said at the beginning, but then in your call to action, it's got it all there. And I'm like, yes, that's what I need to do.
Well, there's no coincidences, is there? And when I was I used to work for Disney for years. I worked in advertising for years, worked at very high levels. And I was a training manager for many years. So I learnt that when you deliver a teaching, you teach and then you summarize at the end, because there's only so much we can hold in our concentration. So I knew that I always wanted to sort of give the lesson, because there's 7 lessons in the book. I didn't intend it to be like that. That's the way it came through, but it became obvious between me and my editor, there's 7 lessons here. So let's, give the lesson, and then let's round the lesson up at the end. So everybody cap it all off, and then give people tips all the way through. Because this is what I'm saying. Knowledge is no good if it isn't applied. It's okay to read books, and we've all got knowledge, but if we don't go back to everyday lives and don't put any of this into practice, then what's the point really? It's not going to change us. So there needed to be some simple tips, the calls to action. That's why I call them calls to action. Come on, give it a go, because then you're actually applying the knowledge that you're reading. And actually, a lady said to me, Kathy Mingo, who's a medium that I very much respect, she said the other day that when she reads books, for her, she reads them from the soul, not the mind. And I just thought, brilliant. Actually, that's what we do, isn't it? When we're drawn to a book, whatever book it is, it's because it's feeding us something. And actually, it's soul stuff, really. And that's what I'm hoping what the dead is dying to teach us. Did I just say it right? Yeah. It's such a long title. Next time I'm having a shorter title.
Please do. Every time I say it, I'm like, please say it right. Your fault. It's not. It's the spirit guide's fault.
Yeah, exactly. They gave it to me.
Like feather, it is. Well, Claire, so when someone picks up the book and then they've read it and they've finished the book, what do you want them to feel? What do you want them to take away from reading, what the dead are dying to teach us?
Well done.
On the back.
Yeah, it did. Brilliant. I think that the overriding message is to try and get people to understand that we have been, through no fault of society, of any one person, but just the evolution of society, we have been limited in our understanding of what life really is and who we really are. So because of our mind, because of our beliefs, because of the ideas that we've been taught in school and in society, and the journey that culture has been on, somehow we've turned away from religion because it wasn't serving us, because it was too controlling, moved into science, which says none of this is real because we can't prove any of it, and the balance has been lost. There's a truth in between the two of those. And I think it's helping people understand who they really are, that they are infinite awareness, that their consciousness, that science doesn't understand what consciousness is. By the way, it can't even string a single sentence together scientifically. So there is this aspect of ourselves that is eternal, and I'm trying to get people to understand that. And then the big take-home message, I think, from the book is that you aren't alone, that all through your life you're connected in with your loved ones, with your spirit helpers who walk with you. And even when you die, and I love the last chapter, I know you haven't got there yet, but to me, the last chapter in my book is what really strings it all together. It's a beautiful lesson in understanding that no one dies alone. You won't die alone. Your loved ones don't die alone. Even if you can't be with your loved ones. Oh my goodness, this message is needed right now. Where people are dying in isolation. They are not on their own, and that they will cross over into the spirit dimensions of life and be helped and guided, because that is, we're helped and guided here. It's a continual process. So it really, it's those two things: understanding who you are and understanding that you're not alone, you're never alone, and you never die alone. And I back this up. I don't just say this as some poetic belief that I have. I'm backing it up by personal experience and the research. The research of people, for instance, in the last chapter where I talk about how dying people have near-death, not near-death, well, they can have near-death experiences, but, have deathbed visions where they're seeing loved ones come close. And nurses, palliative care nurses, talk to me all the time on my Facebook community page about the fact that they know when loved ones are going to pass, because they start to talk to deceased relatives. It's never living ones. It's always deceased relatives. And they see that process unfolding, and they know that the time's come in when they're going to go once this happens, There is research, the work of Dr. Penny Sartori, for instance, I list in there, who, brilliant doctor who's been studying this in UK hospitals and can see that there is this pattern that unfolds, and that brilliant, amazing information comes through, because it can be that, as tragic as this sounds, maybe a family have been in a car accident, for instance, just an example, and one of the people in the car accident passes, but the other one's rushed into hospital, they're family members, but they're both unconscious. So the one who's still suffering and living is unconscious. It doesn't know the other one's died, but as they're beginning to pass themselves, because they take longer to go, they start saying, this other one has come to get them, that they know they've passed and they've come to get them. Am I making sense? Am I saying that clearly enough?
No, I can see it as well as when you're saying it, Claire.
Yeah, so, how do you explain that? That person didn't know that person's died, they haven't been told that person's died, and yet that person knows that that person died and is there to come and get them, So, there is just so much to this universe, life, what we don't understand, and I just don't want us to kind of box it all up and try and make it all neat and tidy. We don't understand. That's the beauty. And I hope that the book is something that just helps people in their times of strife, whether it's, they're going through a divorce, to whether they're, terminally ill, or if they've just lost somebody. There's something in there, I think.
From myself, Claire, and thank you for being on the Keep It Spiritual show and podcast. Gotta say a massive thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Anytime you want me, I'd love to.
There we are. Really hope you enjoyed that chat with medium and channeler, the beautiful Claire Broad. If you want to get a book, it's underneath right now. Remember, the book is called What the Dead Are Dying to Teach Us, a fabulous book. And of course, if you want to find out anything more about Claire Broad, that is all underneath in the description as well. I really hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Keep It Spiritual show and podcast. Remember to follow us on Twitter at Keep It Spirit Pod, or myself personally, Chris Meredith, which is at Chris C. Meredith. And of course, make sure you subscribe and you like this video, tell your friends. And of course, remember, keep it spiritual. Until next time, see you later.